When precious Luna couldn't get up anymore, the vet did an ultrasound on the gorilla, and what he found completely shocked him. When the usually cheerful and playful gorilla Precious Luna, a 12-year-old western lowland gorilla who had lived at the zoo since she was small, couldn't stand up for many days, a concerned visitor got the zoo workers' attention. The gorilla was supposed to have had a baby a long time ago, but she still hadn't given birth. After looking up facts about how long gorillas stay pregnant, this visitor felt something was wrong. Even from where he stood, he could see the animal was in pain and really troubled by her big belly. When the zoo workers finally heard him, they quickly brushed off his concerns. "There's nothing wrong with the animal," they said, and told the visitor to stay out of it. Precious Luna had always been the main draw and entertainment for visitors since she came to Bayou Wildlife Park, a private zoo outside Louisiana. And this wasn't the first worried visitor to bring up Luna's issue. But nothing ever got fixed. These zoo workers wouldn't change anything. "Luna is going to have a baby and just feels a little grumpy. She's totally fine," they kept saying. But the gorilla wasn't fine at all. She really needed help. Thankfully, it wasn't until a well-known social media star, Jake, who had more than 2 million followers on Instagram, visited the zoo that Luna finally got the help she needed. One of his followers had told him about the awful conditions at the zoo, especially about the supposedly pregnant gorilla who stayed pregnant way too long and looked very ill. Jake didn't believe the tip at first, but when he saw the animal for himself and how the zoo workers ignored his worries, he knew he had to do something. "This is totally wrong," Jake said to the zoo worker. "That animal is clearly hurting." "She's just grumpy because of the pregnancy," the zoo worker replied, brushing him off. Nothing to worry about. There were lots of responses and comments from many people who had visited the zoo recently, too. They had also seen the many disturbing things happening there, but nobody had been able to fix anything. They talked about how sad, sick, and swollen the animals, not just Luna, looked. One person wrote that he had brought this to the zoo workers' attention, but they brushed it off as just a small mood change in the gorilla. The next day, the zoo had many visitors who came to see the gorilla, and some took pictures of her. When these pictures were posted online, people became more concerned as many said the gorilla's pregnancy didn't look right. People watching online started demanding that the zoo check the animal properly. Usually, pregnancy lasts about 8.5 months for gorillas. The poor animal had been carrying her large, bulging belly for almost 10 months and 3 weeks. The more the news spread, the more attention it got. Many vets and experts started questioning whether the animal was actually pregnant at all. Several people online also shared their experiences at the zoo, especially about the caretakers' and owners' careless and uncaring attitude toward their animals' health. This was a major issue at the zoo that people who noticed the gorilla's strange behavior and condition brought up. The anger finally made visitors speak out against the private zoo and try to get higher authorities involved. For days after the reports, the zoo owners took no action or gave any response. Dr. James, an experienced wildlife vet with 15 years working with large mammals, decided to go check on the animal himself and figure out what was wrong. When Dr. James went to the zoo the next day to examine the gorilla that had become so famous, he was refused entry along with several other visitors who came that day. When word spread, police were called and they went to check on the animal. When they arrived at the zoo, protesters demanding justice for the gorilla had gathered at the gate. There was so much chaos that police had to force the zoo owners to shut down until the public's concerns were handled. Dr. James went to the zoo and asked to be allowed to see and treat the gorilla, but the staff insisted everything was fine with Luna. Dr. James made a deal with the zoo workers. He would examine the animal and help with the protests if everything was truly okay with her. "If she's really fine, like you say, let me prove it," Dr. James told them. "Fine, but you'll see we're right," the manager responded. They agreed and let him in. When he got inside, he went straight to Luna's cage. When he got there, his heart sank at the sight of the gorilla. The poor creature lay at the edge of her cramped concrete cage, looking pale, very weak, and completely unable to move. The air was thick with the smell of rotting fruit and waste, and flies buzzed around the stagnant water in her drinking bowl. She was surrounded by her own waste, rotten bananas, and treats probably thrown at her by visitors. One of the zoo workers said she hadn't eaten anything they gave her for a long time. She just lay there, watching quietly and falling asleep sometimes. Sure enough, Luna looked pregnant at first glance. A belly that big was hard to miss. But this didn't look like a normal pregnancy to Dr. James either. Not knowing that the younger worker had revealed that the gorilla hadn't been eating, the manager who joined them started lying to the doctor, clearly trying to distract from the horrible scene in front of them. "The gorilla is just having a difficult pregnancy, and our resident vet is handling it," she claimed. She added that Luna had simply been overeating, which explained why she was so tired and sluggish all the time. "That's clearly not true," Dr. James said firmly. "Look at this cage. Where's your vet?" Dr. James knew all of this was false. Based on the state of Luna's cage, there probably wasn't a vet taking care of her, and no overeating was happening either. Something terrible was going on, and he wanted to uncover it. Dr. James insisted on doing an ultrasound on the gorilla to diagnose and possibly treat her. He was told to come back the next day because his work would disturb the zoo's head vet. Dr. James felt he had no choice but to agree. Besides, he wanted to be as cooperative as possible so they wouldn't suspect anything. He could barely sleep that night and returned to the zoo very early the next morning with his ultrasound equipment packed. The morning air was crisp and foggy as Dr. James arrived at Bayou Wildlife Park just after dawn. When he arrived at the zoo, he was shocked by what he found. Many cages that had been full of animals the day before were now empty. Many of the zoo's animals seemed to have disappeared completely. The zoo was partially empty because they had secretly moved some animals to an unknown location. Dr. James was now certain they were up to no good. He was surprised they hadn't moved Luna yet, but he suspected they couldn't. Worried about what would happen to her and the other animals they had hidden, Dr. James posted an update online. Soon after, reporters started arriving at the zoo to see what was happening and report live. The zoo's vet told Dr. James there was no need to bother the gorilla. "Luna is fine," they kept insisting. When Dr. James stood his ground and started threatening the man, the zoo vet finally admitted something was wrong with the animal, but it was too much trouble and effort. "Look, it's easier if we just put her down and get another one," the zoo vet said coldly. "Are you insane?" Dr. James shouted. "How can you say that about a living animal?" Dr. James was horrified and outraged. How could a trained vet say such a thing about an animal? Dr. James was now more determined than ever to examine the gorilla, unaware of the terrible things he would soon discover. At this time, more reporters and supporters were already gathering at the zoo entrance, and some were protesting and trying to disturb the security guards. It was getting out of control, and nothing was being done about the situation. It seemed like the zoo owners would rather have the animal die than save its life. After another hour of arguing with the zoo staff, the noise outside got louder. Dr. James made a decision and stepped outside the zoo to address the protesters. He explained to them how serious Precious Luna's condition might be at that moment. He mentioned he had been at the zoo since early morning, asking for permission to examine the animal, but had been denied. "I'm willing to help for free," he told the crowd. "I just want to make sure the animal we all care about is healthy and gets proper treatment." This caused an uproar among the crowd, and the chaos eventually forced police to come and control the situation. After hearing what caused the uproar, they asked the zoo owners to step aside and let the good vet do his job. It seemed they were also aware of the situation and knew it was important to uncover whatever was being hidden at this facility. The zoo had no choice but to let Dr. James through. When Dr. James was finally allowed into the cage with the animal, he put on his full protective gear and got to work. Dr. James carefully entered the animal cage, unsure of what to expect. He slowly approached the animal so as not to scare her or the younger ones around her, but as if they knew he was there to help their friend. They all moved to another part of the cage. Dr. James walked up to Precious Luna, but the animal remained motionless and sluggish. She just lay there giving up with an empty stare, as if completely depressed. This behavior didn't go unnoticed by Dr. James, who became very concerned. He moved closer to the animal and gently touched her leg, but she didn't move or react. She looked like she had been lying in the same position for several days. He hoped he wasn't too late to help her. Setting up his equipment, Doctor. James began examining Precious Luna. He was surprised to see that the area around her private parts was quite clean for an animal that hadn't moved for days. Precious Luna was dehydrated, pale, and losing weight despite her protruding belly. The gorilla's breathing slowed and her eyes drooped, but what worried Dr. James most was her irregular heartbeat that he could hear through his stethoscope. Her condition seemed to be getting worse by the minute. Dr. James knew he had to act quickly to save Luna's life. "We're running out of time," he muttered to himself as he noticed Luna's breathing becoming more difficult. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. He set up his portable ultrasound equipment and started checking the gorilla's stomach. As he moved the device around, he looked at the screen, but the pictures were mixed up and hard to understand. "Come on, show me what's happening inside," he said quietly, changing the angle and wiping the gel off many times. The ultrasound equipment made weird beeping noises as he tried hard to get a clear image. He suddenly stopped and became very still. He pushed the device deeper, staring at the screen, trying different positions to understand what he was looking at. "This doesn't seem right," he said softly, worry clear in his voice. He cleaned the device again and pressed it against different parts of Luna's swollen stomach. "Wait, I don't see any baby moving. No heartbeat." His eyes got big as he realized what was happening. "This isn't a pregnancy," he said, shocked. His eyes got even bigger, and he yelled in fear when he finally figured out what he was seeing. There's a huge foreign thing in there. He couldn't believe what was on the screen. It wasn't a late pregnancy like everyone had thought or pretended. Actually, it wasn't a pregnancy at all. He looked more carefully at the screen, his hands shaking a little as he tried to get a better look at what was inside the animal's stomach. Whatever he saw made him grab his gloves and reach for his knife and needle. "I need to do surgery right now," he told the crowd outside. "Her life is in danger." The hard part was getting the right amount of medicine for a gorilla Luna's size. Too little, and she'd wake up during the operation. Too much could kill her. After carefully figuring out the right amount, he gave the almost unconscious animal medicine to stop the pain and keep them both safe, then quickly made a clean cut in her stomach. By now, several protesters were standing outside the cage quietly watching and filming the veterinarian working on the unconscious animal. Some could be seen praying and getting upset because they didn't know what would happen. They were scared this could be the end of the fun and entertaining Precious Luna. Dr. James worked fast for the next 2 hours and 40 minutes, cleaning out the gorilla's stomach. Luna was not going to have a baby. Her stomach had huge chunks of undigested food, waste, and poop, which meant something was blocked somewhere. He had to reduce the pressure for now, but they would need to get the animal to a real operating room to save her life. He called for help right away, and people came together to get an ambulance. Soon they came to help, and the gorilla was carefully moved to Dr. James's animal hospital where they could properly help her. Everything happened fast as they rushed to get ready and get her to the operating table. The next thing to do was remove whatever was causing the blockage in the animal's stomach and intestines. As sweat ran down their faces, they finally found what was causing the problem. Right there, they saw a big piece of plastic wrap, about the size of a dinner plate, from what looked like fruit packaging blocking Luna's intestines from letting undigested food and waste pass to her bowels to be eliminated. Dr. James couldn't figure out how the gorilla had managed to eat the piece of plastic. It was a clear sign of carelessness by the zoo workers. They had probably not completely taken off the wrapping from the fruit before giving it to the animals, and precious Luna happened to be the unlucky one to swallow it. Dr. James was able to remove the blockage and clean up the gorilla. The surgical team worked without stopping to fix Luna and make her stable, and finally they did it. Dr. James was shocked by the zookeeper's carelessness. He just couldn't figure out how they let things get this bad. It was frustrating to see how little they cared about the gorilla's health. It seemed like they didn't even care if she lived. Their attitude was really disappointing. The story spread quickly as news reporters came to Dr. James's clinic for interviews. The public wanted updates on precious Luna's condition. While Dr. James was happy to share the good news, he also made sure to talk about the neglect precious Luna had experienced. They had found the problem and successfully saved Luna, but the zoo owners would have to face legal trouble. Over the next 3 weeks, Dr. James focused on helping Luna get better. She made an incredible recovery and was soon doing well, looking healthier than ever. Meanwhile, Dr. James's kind actions had made him a national hero, with many thinking of him as a celebrity for his amazing care of the animal. His wildlife animal hospital became a popular place for pet owners and farmers throughout Louisiana. His skills were wanted not only for house pets, but also for farm animals. He wrote a complaint against the private zoo owners, supported by many people online, and they were able to make sure that the owners were charged and lost their license. The remaining animals were moved to a different place where they could get proper care, including precious Luna. The world would forever be thankful to good veterinarians like Dr. James for saving precious Luna's life. Did you like this story? Would you have done what Dr. James did and not given up on Luna? Tell us what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, follow this channel and hit the like button. Don't give up when you see someone in pain. What you say can help save a life. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.